guys, this is the last video ending up or summarizing what happened making Deez new pulley. But to give you some background to it, Deez bought a Vevor mini lathe, and after a couple of years there was a noise starting in the headstock, and it was getting worse and worse. He finally did an exploratory and found out that the bearings were damaged, and a tension pulley that looks like this was rocking really bad. So he put new bearings in it, put it back into service, and it just wiped out immediately again. So there's no parts. Vevor doesn't sell anything. There's no parts list, nothing. So he was pretty much so stuck, and part of the inside of the pulley was also damaged from the bearing rocking in there. So I offered to make him another pulley. And that's where the fun began for me. So I didn't know what the belt was, any of the dimensions. I've seen them, they're on cars. They're the serpentine belts on the front, running the water pump, alternator, everything. So I started researching pictures on the internet, it's called a ribbed belt or a poly V belt. Perfect. Now I know what it's called. Go and find a manufacturer. Now I have the dimensions to the belt and to the pulley, what it's supposed to be. So start a print, start putting all the dimensions in there. They're supposed to be on 92 thou centers. They're 40 degrees, and they have to be plus or minus 1 thou. Oof. Got a D-bit grinder. Go make my cutter. Work with Deez. We did a lot of unlisted or private videos trying to give me all the dimensions to the pulley that he had. He's got the original one in his hand, calipering this, and I'm updating the print as fast as he calls out the dimensions. So, okay, now I have the dimensions, I have the cutter, I know what I'm supposed to do, put it in the lathe. This was the first one, and it's a total wreck, because this is not easy to do. The cutter keeps wanting to move to the side. I'm trying to lock the saddle down, not having luck, so everything's butchered. Also, the first time, you face it off, and oops, I went too far, whatever. So now I go and think, maybe the cutter I made wasn't good enough. I didn't do a super careful job with it. It's kind of angled a bit, and maybe that's why it's walking. So go and look on the internet. That somebody must make a cutter for these things, and yes, they do, and they start at $200. Go easily through $300, and you have to buy a pack of 10. Oof. Most of the places I see just show the cutter. It's not for sale. And I could not find one cutter on U.S. soil. Back to the D-bit grinder, make a very good, carefully made cutter for it. Make another blank, put it in the lathe, success. This is now going to be a test pulley. The problem with the design, well, I'll get into that, but the original design, there's two bearings. There's a shelf in here, so one bearing gets pushed in to the shelf and it's almost in the middle. Another bearing gets pushed up against it. So there's two bearings in the middle of this pulley trying to hold, the motors on this side yanking, the spindles on this side yanking. I'm thinking this is not going to work. But made it, shipped it off. Deez tried it, another private video. Tried it on his lathe. He puts it on there, no rock, no play, nothing. Runs the motor, or runs the lathe for 60 seconds, destroyed the bearings. Even though I had bought deep groove bearings, they do not like axial load, so it wound up destroying the races or whatever. It was rocking just as bad as his original pulley. So now thinking about it, going, this design just is not going to work. Asked him to send me his original pulley, all the parts, everything to it. Sent me everything. and I came up with a design with needle bearings on the back, on the front, and a new shaft, longer, a nylon lock nut to hold it, thrust bearings on the front. Made another pulley with all these parts. No. It was his original pulley. I had to make plugs and things to go in it, then push the needle bearings in there and so on. And I'll show here, I'm going to play the video, the last video I did that was unlisted between us, telling him, because it's a collaboration, what he had to do to finish the design, because I figured it's best if he has it. He has the lathe, so he can do all the dimensions to get everything to line up perfectly. And I'll put a link here in the description where you can go and see his final video putting that pulley in place, adjusting it, and it ran good. So I'm thinking now, I have the thrust bearing on the front. I probably should have put it on the back too. I had made the shaft, I think in this private video here that I'm going to show next, I didn't mention, I had made the shaft long enough so you can put a thrust bearing in the back and the front, because it's just steel writing on steel with grease. So enough said, let me just show the last of the video. And I have seen a lot of other YouTube videos. Vevor, I think, is aware of the problem, because every time I see somebody with a wiped out bearing, it's a different design. They went from the rib belt to a standard V belt, and it's still destroyed. I've seen it where the bearings are pressed in the pulley and they go on the shaft. I've seen it where the bearings are pressed on the shaft and the pulley slides on. So I have a feeling Vevor is going to duplicate this design that I came up with. But it looks pretty good. I think it'll last. Well, they'll see. So on with the last of the video. I've done the hard part for you all, the redesign and dimensions and everything. So, this guy, put it in your mill, machine flats on it, so you can get a wrench on it to tighten it down in the block. This way too, you can control this block so you can line things up even better. So I wouldn't try to do it to a wrench. I'd do it to a crescent, an adjustable wrench, get it on there and tighten it down. Flush this with alcohol or something, this with alcohol or something. You want to Loctite it in, go for it, whatever. You can see my screwed up threads because the threading die went off. You can see it's wobbling, but it seats down nice and square, so perfect, nice and straight. Grease this, so because it's riding on that thing. You probably have to deburr this to keep it from chewing up its bearing, but thrust bearings, this guy you probably should grease this bearing too. You can use that white stuff I sent you or whatever you want. As far as tightening this down, I would recommend just seeing if there's play, like this. As soon as there's no play, you're tight. I wouldn't go any further than that. My rest of my intentions on this block was, I'm going to send you this bolt. You got a DRO and everything. You got to do the thickness, you got to do the width, you got to drill this hole and tap it, because I was thinking rather than getting a wrench in here, because it's a lot shorter, just screw the bolt in and tighten it down, Loctite it, whatever. Now all you have to do is play with is the nut on the other side. All this stuff, yeah, goes back to you. This is like kind of worn out, but you'd be using that one instead. It's the same thing. This is an 8mm 125 pitch. Your washers go back. This goes back in the box. I'm also including all of the broken bearings. You may want to save the bearings. And your snap rings are in here that were on it. I'm also including, I have a spare, I think this is a .1005 or whatever, but you know, can have that one, checking more of your stuff or whatever. And I'm including, I was going to include 4 bearings, but I want to keep some. 2 bearings in the section of my Pulley V or rib belt. This guy I'm probably just going to put on the shelf for now because, like I said, I'm burnt out. I'd have to make the pieces for the bearings. I'd have to turn the rest of this down for the smaller piece. I'll also email you the final copy, Rev 3, even though I revved it way more than that. The numbers that are bold on the print are numbers that I machined it to and that I know are a fact, they're correct. So anybody ever asks you for the free print, it's yours, give it away. Somebody else I know is going to be in the same boat, want the same parts when they see you finish this up and put this on your lathe and it runs. But that is pretty awesome. So hopefully tomorrow I can get out to the post office and you'll have it for the weekend for a fun project. So it was fun and it wasn't fun towards the end. I also gave you one of the cutters if you want to mess around with one of those. I have 2 of them, I said, yeah. So this will go in my custom tool drawer along with the other one. Okay.